The ego is the system that runs your sense of self. It is made out of thought patterns, emotions, and behavioral loops, and the stories that try to hold it all together. Left unchecked, it creates endless existential searching, chronic disconnection, and the persistent sense that something is wrong. The goal of my videos is clarity, to see your identity and its contradictions for what they are, named precisely, to finally understand what it is that we're all running away from. The philosopher's mistake is to think that your actions come after your philosophy. But your philosophy is what causes you to act in a certain way, and therefore you believe that you need to change your philosophy in order to behave differently. But this thinking is actually inverted, because it is not that you have a philosophy that then gives you the power to act according to your philosophy. It is more likely the case that you already have a way in which you work in the world, and then the philosophy is the way you justify it, and then you objectify what you already have been doing. People believe that they are trying to figure out the true nature of reality when very deep into philosophy, and I also felt this way. I thought that the nihilistic views that I had of existence, the atheistic views I had of existence, my attachment to science, my attachment to reason and logic, all of them seemed like they cared about truth more than anything else. But this might have been the initial seed of these ways of thinking, but after a while, they are more like a way to justify what you already have been doing instead of actually questioning the status quo of your own mind. If you believe that morality is subjective, for example, then you're going to build an entire philosophy that justifies why morality is subjective, and the same works in the inverse. All your belief systems are what your identity already is like. And then this identity is that which determines your decision making. The problem is that if you now want to change the philosophy in order to change your decision making, you are having to fight against the current that has been established for a very long time. To just change your philosophy, if your philosophy is very nihilistic, doesn't work with a philosophy first approach. It works through an action first approach. And this feels very difficult because oftentimes the philosophy is like a thing that blocks an action. I, for example, felt like nothing that I do would be very much meaningful because, yeah, the universe is just this empty ball of space and there's nothing really that has meaning and purpose. And therefore, there was nothing I could really think about that would make me ambitioned enough to fight for something. And I was always in the lookout for like meaning or purpose or something that would give my life something to do that I would feel fulfilled by. And then I tried to figure out some sort of true nature of existence that would map onto a philosophy that then would give me some sort of objective purpose in order to not smoke all day and play video games all day and just waste my life endlessly and being in this cloud of weed smoke and comfort and discomfort and overthinking. This was when I was 20 to 22 years old. I was constantly in this mode. And it is really counterintuitive, but the only way out of this mode is to prove to your identity that something that you have constructed is actually wrong. For example, I used to believe that in order for me to start running, like working out, which is a common goal for many people, I need to find like the true nature of reality that makes it so that running is meaningful. Right? It's very silly if you really like ponder it, because the meaning of the run is pretty much self-defined, and it is human, right? It's health reasons, it's that you can sleep better, it's so that the body regenerates better, it's that you can have a clearer mind. Like through doing the habits of like working out, you are going to notice that your body likes it and it feels better to be in this state, and then you're going to pursue it further. And this is true for any purpose you might have. If you are interested in making music, the act of making music is installing the philosophy of somebody who is willing to make music. This is true for all hobbies, all goals you might have, all deep existential ponderings. It is the action that builds the dopamine network in your own brain that makes the thing meaningful, and it has nothing to do with some philosophical narrative about meaning. In fact, through spirituality, you'll figure out that all narratives are always lies. If you are trying to motivate yourself by imagining you're going to be some, super successful person and then people are going to admire you, then the moment you are like spiritually advanced enough, this motivation will stop working because it was always built on this fake idea that you care about what other people think of you, which is always an egoic idea that is not actually true. I mean, it is true as a mechanism if you have built a body that is only motivated by that, but then you're going to halt your spiritual progress, or even worse, you're going to make your life success and your spiritual success invertedly incompatible. Because now, if you're going to unleash the ego dissolution process onto your body, and your ego has been the thing that has been building your business, then you're scared of losing your entire business, which usually doesn't actually happen, except the business is making you miserable in the first place, which then I would say more power to you. Destroy whatever foundation is making you miserable and find a way to build a business that is actually making you happy. I think this should be the goal, although some sacrifices likely must be made. But it is always within the process that you'll find what it is that your heart actually desires. And then through that, you'll discover a new philosophical way of thinking that gives you a deeper sense of fulfillment within your own life and within your own existence. And then the spiritual parts, the part that dissolves your sense of identity, that makes you feel part of a whole, that makes you want to work for something larger than yourself, that appreciates the health of your own body and wants to build a routine that makes it so that you can facilitate the health of your body and other people's bodies. All of these things slowly but surely become the default of your organism, and it is the lack of philosophies that will make this a routine and consistent. The philosophy will just be in the background and you won't to have to think about it. The same with spirituality. The lookout for spiritual fulfillment or spiritual advancement looks very ordinary. It's not this huge bombastic experience where everything shifts one day from another, but it is the slow grind of sitting on a cushion and focusing on something quite boring. And then there might be spikes of intensity where you suddenly make way more money than you did before, or you've had a very intense meditation experience that you have not had before, and you notice a certain shift every time you wake up where you feel better rested and clear-minded. And these then influence, the philosophical part that is aiming for well-being anyway. Because what all organisms want is to feel better and to be healthier. That's pretty much natural within the organism, or at least for the body itself. And healthier also means financially safe and well, because then you can actually calm down your nervous system and be relaxed and don't have to worry about the next bill that needs to be paid. So the spiritual component and the financial wealth component are pretty much interconnected in the fact that if you do what is best for your body long term, you'll actually also do what is best for your body short term, because they are actually the same actions. And the only thing that is blocking these actions is a sort of philosophical overlay that modifies something very simple, and it complexifies something very simple. It's that when you play with life because you enjoy the process of playing with life, then the question of what is the point in doing this completely falls away. You don't need a point to understand why this movie is a fun experience to be watched. You need to watch the actual movie. You cannot build a 5-page philosophy of why it is worthy, why the movie is worthy to be watched if you don't watch it first. And then maybe you'll over time notice that it was a waste of time, or maybe it gives you the conversation that you needed in the right place at the right time with the right person, where you just have a connection because you both saw the same movie and, oh wow, I never expected this outcome of this seemingly meaningless decision to watch this movie tonight. This is a funny example, but I give it because it is even outside of classical like self-help or self-improvement talk, right? Anything can enrich you in your life. Anything that is new and different from your established patterns can enrich your life in ways you cannot foresee. And philosophy tries to control whatever influence something might have on your life. But this attempt to control it is pretty futile and wastes a lot of time. You waste a lot of time thinking about what it is that needs to be done instead of doing the thing, which then actually creates a gap between an idea and the execution of this idea. But if you want to accomplish meaningful things in your life, what you want to do is you want to reduce the time speed from an idea and the execution. The quicker you can reduce this like gap with stuff that actually matters to you, then this is like a loop that keeps reinforcing itself. And over months and years of time, you end up at a place that you could not have possibly foreseen. And then in retrospect, maybe a sort of philosophical viewpoint establishes itself that you then can give a name and then can teach to others, or you can just explain how it works for you and why it has been helpful for your own architecture. When I talk about analytical enlightenment, I am applying all these radical non-duality frameworks and Hindu and Buddhist spiritual frameworks towards, real awakening and real enlightenment, but using the analytical part of the mind, which is the logical part of the mind, to move to this place where the mind is completely coherent and naturally follows the type of lifestyle and the type of philosophical virtue that you're aiming for in the most coherent and natural way. Because my proposition is that all spirituality or all spiritual awakening or enlightenment is really a system of thermodynamics. It's a system of calibrating your own energy in a way that flows the most efficiently it can possibly flow. And it is harmony within your body and mind system that creates well-being and effective output, and the way to create in the most authentic way you can possibly create. I can facilitate this with you one-on-one in my ego architecture audit, which you can find in the link in the description. I will change the offer when my community launches in the coming months. So check it out if you haven't already. The only thing that matters is the gap between thought and execution, and all search for philosophical meaning is distraction from the ego, which tries to find fulfillment outside the impermanent process of movement through the thing. Philosophy is almost always a burden that lies on top of people that limits their viewpoint. Philosophy can expand your way of looking at things once you install a new philosophy.exe or dep file into your own body nervous system. And it can give you a wider perspective of life and help you confront things in a way that you normally can't. And this is always the case when the philosophy is new and fresh. But after a while, you start to look everything through the lens of this philosophy, and then it becomes a limitation. And you start to lose what it is that makes life so full of opportunity and full of different angles with which to approach an idea. And this is why it's very useful to not cling to any philosophy and have the ability to take a philosophy, flip it on its head, deconstruct it, annihilate it with itself, and then act from there. Philosophy is a tool that you can use, and it can help your thinking. But if you rely on it to install some big change in your life, then you'll always limit the own freedom that can be found in any moment through your direct conscious awareness of what it is, what you actually want, and what you actually can do, and in which ways you are slowly sabotaging your ability to do so, or you're telling stories about why it isn't something you can do right now. The less you sabotage your own self by philosophical overthinking and execute beforehand, you give the real will the power to make what you want to see in the future actually happen.